And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business, our interview series with leaders in the fields of banking, insurance, customer service, digital marketing, and business education, all to highlight the great work of our team in Harrison, New York, supporting the consumer banking industry with insurance-backed benefits and customer service management. And we're very pleased today to talk to Shashank Nigam, who is the founder and CEO of SimpliFlying, which is a company founded in 2009, a world's leading aviation and marketing firm. It works with airlines all across the world on customer service and customer experience. Has a book out called Soar and a lot of articles published. Shashank, how are you today?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me here, Ken. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you once again.
Our pleasure. Now, last time we spoke, you and your family were just back from a trip to Asia, and you had your children, your little children with you, and you talked about the experience of having them wear masks and then even the quarantine when you came back. How has it been for you the last few months? It's been quite a difficult time for the whole airline business.
Yes, it's been a somber few months for aviation. Every single airline airport in the world has been hurting. Travel, of course, is down quite a lot, and that's not ideal. It's not sustainable. So everyone's looking for new solutions, and we at SimpliFlying are leading this charge, helping airlines, airports be where the puck is going to be, and not just try to think of where they are right now, and really think about what the future is going to be like and how can we be better prepared to succeed in the future.
Well, I read that the flow through at American airports right now going through TSAs is about 30% of normal. They reached 1 million passengers once or twice in the last couple of months. Normally, it would be 2 to 3 million a day. How does that experience compare to what's happening overseas with airline transportation?
To be honest, the US is doing a bit better because there was no dramatic clampdown on flying or lockdowns within cities and states. So even though there are quarantine requirements, airlines have been flying as usual in general. So the capacity is still much higher than what it is in many other countries. Let's say in Canada, where I live, the volumes are way down because of different bubbles being created by different regions to protect themselves. And airlines have been pulling back capacity from multiple regions, which is not good because we're taking away 20 years of progress in opening up regions which were not very well connected. And this has got to change. Governments needs to step in, help a little bit where business is hurting.
And you were cited in Forbes magazine on September 17th, and a writer who described that more or less flying in the time of COVID-19 is relatively safe, and your recommendations were cited for testing and for at the airports and by flyers. Tell us a little bit about what you think should be done to, as far as testing and other ways to keep and make flying safe for the public.
Absolutely. In fact, the one thing airlines and airports have done really well are taking into account sanitization and biosafety measures. The emphasis on cleanliness, not just the HEPA filters that are already there, making in-flight one of the safest environment to be in just because the air is so much cleaner, but also proactively cleaning lavatories, spraying the cabin with electrostatic sprays, also at the airport. All of these biosafety measures have worked to bolster confidence amongst travelers. When they do come back, they will see flying has become cleaner and more attuned to the new health and safety needs. But that really is step one. Step one is sanitization, because it reduces the chances of infection within the aircraft, reduces the transmission of viruses within the aircraft or during flying. Step two is testing and not quarantines. You know, a lot of international governments are having quarantines in place, like in the UK or here in Canada, where you have to stay in one place and not interact with anyone for 2 weeks. That is unsustainable for travel, definitely. People don't want to travel if they have to come back home and stay in a place for 2 weeks. Testing can help replace that. imagine if you're testing everyone upon departure so that inside the flight, everyone is safe and is not infected. You're moving from reducing the chances of transmission within the flight to ensuring that no one who is sick is on board. And that's the step 2. The third step really is, despite testing, there might be some people who still come through and there's some leakage. And you plug that gap by having proactive trace and track and exposure notifications for travel, so that the airlines and airports take the first step in notifying local health authorities, as well as anyone who might have traveled with you, that you need to self-isolate because someone you traveled with has tested positive. That's truly giving back to the community and acting as a good corporate citizen. So those are the 3 steps: sanitization measures, testing, not quarantine, and finally trace and track.
Certainly, it sounds like good advice for any area that is affected by COVID-19, which is the entire United States and so many other industrial centers of the world. And tell us a little bit about, you gave a speech at the World Aviation Festival recently, and one of your topics was the Antifragile Brand, how airlines can fly to a stronger post-crisis future. What were some of the tenets of your talk?
Yeah, that's actually a speech I wrote based on this book called Antifragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb of the Black Swan fame. And the premise really is antifragile things are those that gain from disorder. I mean, you can be an egg that succumbs under pressure, or you can be a sparkler that glows under heat, right? You change your state. So how can organizations, how can people have an anti-fragile mindset to grow through this disorder? And of course, I applied the lessons specifically to the aviation space and travel space. If you look at, for example, AirAsia in Malaysia, where the company is changing from primarily running an airline to becoming a super app, where using the phone, you can go order a meal from a local delivery service, to send remittances to another country using their platform, to even listen to music. They're signing pop stars. So it's really thinking beyond, this is the moment in which capacity is now down 98%. Do I need to remain only an airline, or can I use that platform to build something else?
Well, it certainly has been what airlines have done even in the past. Think of airlines like TWA and others that bought hotels and tried to be a full service travel and entertainment organization. Now, Shashank, you wrote about the concept of a testing cohort, and where mobile apps would be able to display in an official status of an individual's health status and testing status. And you see that as one of the ways to move forward, certainly with airlines. Tell us a little bit about that concept, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So the testing cohort was the last demo day we had in our accelerator that we run, called the SimpliFlying Launchpad, in which we bring technologies to airlines and airports globally to go where the puck is going to be ready right now. And a few of those technologies were doing digital passports and mobile passports, where once you get tested for COVID, a QR code is generated in your mobile phone, which when you go to the airline, you scan your boarding pass, that QR code is right there, which authenticates that you have been tested and tested negative. When you land in the destination country, this country also scans the same QR code, and everything is seamless. So there's a common directory of labs, common directory of tests where these can be taken, and a lot of tools are making sure that this is built on blockchain and hence is very secure before being passed around between airlines and governments.
Okay, very good. I guess one of the issues that came up in the United States is leaving middle seats open, and most of the airlines were doing that, but some have stopped as air travel has picked up and flights have been condensed so that there are fewer flights and those are better filled. Where do you see that issue going as far as the airlines selling middle seats?
Yeah, I think the United States has been unique in airlines doing this. Most places around the world, airlines are not doing it. This is not sustainable from an airline business perspective. Yes, it's good as a stopgap measure where there aren't too many people flying. You can leave a seat empty. I do foresee that this will be a temporary measure until planes are full again.
And one of the things, obviously, at CBSI, we work with credit card issuers, and some of the biggest portfolios are affiliated with airlines and offer travel points. And while customers may not be flying, they are using their credit cards for groceries and e-commerce and other at-home needs, home improvements. So that the airlines have been actually selling a lot of points to the banks. Does create a bit of a liability for them down the road. How do you see the impact of the airline frequent flyers programs working during this period?
Yeah, it's a great way. Frequent flyer programs are a great way for airlines to monetize right now when cash is scarce, because they can get cash upfront for future miles. Because ultimately, the reality is travel is growing in general. There is pent-up demand, and people will travel again, even though it might be over some period of time. And most of these deals around loyalty programs are multi-year, multi-decade deals. So it's with a long-term perspective in mind, and I think it provides liquidity to the airlines right now, and that works well for the whole ecosystem.
Very good. And Shashank, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company? You've been working with airlines now for 10 years. You kind of took it from something you were doing part-time to full-time, and now you're thriving, working all around the world. Tell us a little bit about the services of your company.
Yeah, absolutely. We did start off as a brand strategy firm. We've been advising airlines and airports globally on their brand strategy. We became really well known for our work in digital. But over the last 1 year, we have solely focused on post-COVID recovery for the sector. So we've launched an accelerator called the SimpliFlying Launchpad. We are soon to launch a global index of cleanliness, which is called the Health Safety Index, being launched in partnership with Apex, a major airline organization, which will give consumers the peace of mind of who's clean when traveling and not just who's cheap and on time. We are working with airlines and airports in reopening routes and helping with their testing strategy. How do you get this thing sorted and in order so that people can start flying? And ultimately, it all boils down to our core mission, which is crafting the future of travel by building brand trust.
And you have a publication out available on Amazon, Soar. And in that, you've got case studies on a number of airlines you've worked with, including Southwest, Finnair, Singapore, Air New Zealand, and others. What will people learn by reading your book, Soar?
Yeah, I think there are some very exciting lessons. I can pull a copy here, and you will learn how these airlines have built brands over the long term, like simple things like Southwest and Herb Kelleher, which is quite famous, how he always prioritized employees first, and how there are quotes of Herb Kelleher in the Southwest office, or how Air New Zealand, for example, was close to bankruptcy in the year 2000, 2001, and yet they turned it around and are now known for their safety videos, which have been a lot of fun and a full turnaround story around Air New Zealand and their safety videos. So it's not just hunky-dory, but I think there are lots of lessons to be learned right now from the airlines featured in Soar for anyone working in aviation, in banking, in any consumer good industry where price is the main factor for competition.
Certainly, and trying to find non-price competition by providing excellent service and recognizing customers and employees, as your book says. I've been asking my guests a question about STEM education, and you certainly have a background. You went to Carnegie Mellon in the United States and have been working in a technical field as well as in the marketing aspects of aviation. Where do you see the importance of STEM education today in this digital marketing environment, and also something as technical as the airline business?
Yeah, I think STEM education is important indeed. I'd like to correct. I went to Singapore Management University and ended up at Carnegie Mellon after that. Okay. So it was double, but I did study information systems management, and I do have a technical background. And I think even though I'm in the business world right now, that technical know-how and the knowledge, that foundation always comes in handy. So if there are any students debating whether they should just study pure business or technical fields, I would definitely encourage that. The technical fields give you a solid background and foundation that you can leverage upon throughout your career. And you can fall back on when having conversations with scientists, as we are these days when we are talking to testing companies and vaccine companies for aviation.
And Shashank, we appreciate that. Tell us maybe a final thought. We're approaching the holiday season, and a lot of families would like to travel. People want to travel home for holidays and special events, and are concerned about safety. Quarantines are kind of another consideration, depending on the area of the country or the world you are. What's your outlook for the holiday season for air travel, and also going into next year?
Well, I think travel will be limited to domestic and some regional travel. I don't foresee international travel bouncing back right away because of the various quarantine and border closures. So I foresee people will be traveling domestically, but not as much internationally.
Very good. Well, Shashank, you got a terrific book, and you have some terrific articles that you post on LinkedIn periodically, and you have a great idea about how to make airline travel safe going forward as we go through this COVID-19 pandemic. I just appreciate your time, and good to chat today.
Thank you very much, Ken. You have a great day.
Our pleasure. Good to see you. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, here to highlight the great work done by our team in Harrison, New York, taking care of our clients in the consumer banking industry. Thank you again to Shashank, and we'll come back for another session very soon. I'm in my home office in White Plains, New York. Have a great day, everybody.